We want to talk about this new single by Chloe Rose. It's called For Me. So who better to tell us more? We've got on the line right now Mr. Mike Stock. Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Can you hear me okay?
I can just about hear you. It's fine. Don't worry.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's up with the line today. But yeah, we've got you on the telephone today to talk about this song with Chloe Rose, For Me.
Indeed.
Yeah. So first of all, before we go into what it's for and all that, how did you get to work with Chloe? What was the decision on that?
Well, Chloe is... I've known her now for about 4 years, and she's just 16 at the moment.
Yeah.
So from a very young age, we started sort of chatting on Twitter, telling me about wanting to be a singer and all the rest of it. And gradually, she's been down here with her mum so many times now, and we've got this going quite well. We've got half the album done. And I think within the next, week, we're releasing the first record. So it's just been a slow process. I couldn't hold her back, really. I told her she's got to stay at school and do her GCSEs.
Yeah, of course.
But so we're on the road now.
Yeah, of course. When you're a young singer or young singer-songwriter and you want to get out there, it's difficult. You know how difficult it is. But so many people have knocked on your door over the past 30 years, and I'm supposed because you're one of the most successful songwriters of all time, or part of.
Yeah, well, that's what the Guinness Book of Records says. Yeah. I'm not arguing with them.
No, don't at all. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that now. We want to talk about the Wayne Rooney charity testimonial. It's on August the 3rd, and Chloe's going to be performing this song at that game.
That's the first public performance of the song. Yes, the Wayne Rooney Foundation, in support of NSPCC and Childline. So it's a great platform for what we're trying to do with them, is to raise awareness, get some money in and support the charity. So that's brilliant from my point of view, because I did one with Childline now nearly 30 years ago.
I remember.
It was Sonia and Big Fun back then, So it seems kind of a nice little circle to complete that I'm doing it now 30 years later.
Yeah. It would have been good to get Wayne probably do some backing vocals on a remix, but
indeed,
I don't think that would happen.
Has he ever sung? I don't know. I'll ask him when I see him on Wednesday.
I think you should. I don't think he has. I know he's a big music fan, though.
Indeed he is, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'll ask him. I'll get him behind the mic.
Yeah. If you can get anyone in the charts, there's no better person to talk to. But yeah, it's called For Me. Like I say, you did the song for Childline back in the late 80s with Big Fun and Sonia. Again, was that something you always wanted to do, or were you approached to do it in that instance?
Well, we were approached there because it is back in the day, it's difficult to think of this now, but the Childline telephone line was set up for young people in trouble, and of course it was a telephone kiosk in the high street. Nowadays, of course, everyone's got a mobile device, and to coincide with For Me, the song that I've written for the Childline thing is a new app for the mobile age. So this is a great step forward, I think, for the NSPCC and Childline, and the Wayne Rooney Foundation supporting it all the way. So the app is called For Me, and the song is called For Me, so it's all tied together nicely. And in future, it's a free service, for all the kids who need it. Yeah,
it's great because, like you said, how technology's evolved over the past 30 years. It's one of those things when children find it difficult to get on the phone or the privacy. Like now you've got an app that you can do that.
Exactly, yeah.
It could help so many children.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing. And besides that, you've never stopped working since the 70s. You've never stopped. So I suppose you've got so many other projects on the back burner as well.
I have. They're all in abeyance whilst we do this testimonial match for Wayne Rooney on Wednesday, and then obviously to get the app launched into everyone's to bring it to everyone's attention. So my life is devoted to that at the moment. Yeah. But I've been working, over 3 or 4 decades now, and I don't think I'm going to stop.
That's good to hear.
No, the only thing I think something might stop me. but I'm not going to take that decision to stop. I've got to keep doing it. Really, it's just part of who I am.
Yeah, of course you were a performer yourself, and you did quite a successful part of some hotel chains, entertainment and things like that, before you got to work as a producer and mixing stuff. And like I say, you're still doing it today. How different is it to get a performer into the charts now than, say, the 80s was? Is it a lot more harder or the same?
It's two things here. It's a really interesting question, this, but for me, the charts aren't what they used to be. They're just as hard now as they ever were, but the chart doesn't have the same. Doesn't feel the same anymore because it's mainly download. Back in the 80s, of course, if you wanted to get your record into the chart, you'd have hundreds of thousands of people would have to go out to a record shop, physically go there and buy the thing, hand over £2 or something. It's all too easy nowadays, and so it's very difficult to compare the two worlds because they used to be top of the pops, so everybody knew what was number one. But lots of people now don't even know what's number one.
No.
Because it's not drawn to their attention. So the world is different in that regard, and it's all mainly downloads. But there's a convenience factor, but that's about all. I don't think, if you love music and you love a record or you love an act, you'd walk out down the high street and buy it. If it's made too easy for you, I think, it's just sometimes too easy, and that's it.
Yeah, you were on the crest of that wave of Top of the Pops, being massive. Of course, it'd been big for years, but in the 80s, I think it was the go-to show every Thursday, and smash hits, and people putting posters on the wall. It was like that time, wasn't it?
Well, it was before the digital world took over, and so it was physical still. You could buy a piece of plastic, you could buy a magazine with a poster in it, and it was a physical piece of paper you can hold in your hand and stick it on the wall. So it's now very much it's non-physical. Very difficult to buy a download and put it in your collection and think, well, I've got something there, because in fact you don't really have it. It's just a piece of, if you don't pay your account, you lose the music.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a different world.
Yeah. If I say Mike Stock on the air, which I've done quite a few times on this show, a lot of people might think of a certain point of their life. It might be the late 80s when it was just the hit factory and hit after hit after hit. But you had success before that and after. I remember Dead or Alive, Divine, Bananarama you worked with before, the big surge towards the late 80s of Rick Astley, and then it was just a machine, hit after hit. You were filling the top 40 basically at one point.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. We do hold the record for that. I don't think anyone's going to break it. And I can't even tell you what the record is exactly now. I've forgotten, but it's so many weeks permanently, 300 weeks or something, permanently on the chart.
Yeah.
With some act or another. So that's something I don't even want to try again because it was too much hard work.
I was going to say, keeping tabs on it. I remember, I was trying to, off the top of my head, name some of the acts with the chart at the same time. So you got Kylie, Jason, Rick Astley, you got London Boys, Sonia, Big Fun, who we mentioned before, and you were out touring with these guys. There was just so much going on. I can remember the Hitman and Her, I'd have them on the nighttime show. You'd be out doing daytime shows for the kids. It was just non-stop.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I did it. In that we took full advantage of it all because, I've got this time machine in my head that, at the time, I was thinking I want to look back on this and think I didn't leave anything behind. I did everything I could because I know it's not going to last. Nothing ever does. So you make the most of it while you can. And that's the only piece of advice I'd pass on to all young people who are having any form of success. Now you've got to keep it going. You can't stop. Because someday it's going to stop and you won't be able to change that. Yeah. At the moment, as long as you can keep going, you keep going,
Of course, yeah. And some of those songs, like I say, just focus on the late 80s, you still hear Rick Astley in the clubs and pubs today. You still hear like a lot of the Kylie songs. So a lot of them have stood up the test of time, which a lot of people thought they might not, but they have. And then...
we've done well in that regard, to be honest. Things like the Rick Astley one, Never Gonna Give You Up, it won't go away, that song.
Never. He's just
and
had
the Kylie stuff as well.
Yeah, he's just had a bit of a new platform to come out, and he's obviously been doing like the now and then type events, but I've seen him doing his own live shows again, Rick Astley, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, he's doing very well. He's doing well. He takes his own band out and he plays it all very much, from a muso point of view. He's doing every note live on stage. A lot of the other acts that do these revival shows of the 80s and that are, singing to backing tracks, but that's just, it's horses for courses. Rick's got that kind of a personality, and and he's a very unusual voice.
Yeah,
nobody believed it came from him when we did the records.
No, people thought it was a slowed down version of somebody, or it was a different singer than it actually was. But Rick was your T-boy.
Well, he was to begin with. Yeah, he did. He helped out as studio assistant for about a year before we made the records with him.
Yeah, and then after the 80s, of course, you carried on throughout the 90s. You're known for working with Simon Cowell on quite a lot of successful projects, and then working with Steps, and again working throughout the 2000s with a lot of people. Working with Simon Cowell, again, he seems to be able to put his finger onto things like yourself. So it was just a marriage made in heaven, you two working together.
Well, we started with Simon in the 80s with Sinita, but by the time we get through to the 90s, I've set up a new studio, and he came to us over, and we did a few projects, and then we did Robson and Jerome for him, which, was a bit of a sidestep for me, because these are two actors, and Simon wanted us to cover Unchained Melody, a song that's been covered a million times. Yeah. But it turned out to be the biggest selling record. We couldn't have imagined that, but we did something like 2.8 million singles of that, and we sold 4 million albums, very, very quickly over a short space of time. And that sort of gave Simon a great big platform to go from, and he did his TV stuff, the stuff he's involved in now. A lot of that came from that,
Yeah, I remember it so well. Again, being a DJ in the clubs and everything, there was always a song that was associated with yourself. I remember some of the other projects you work on, like you did a song for WWF, which is the old wrestling federation, and you did a Power Rangers song.
Yeah, I did, I did. Well, no, you see, I'm always, I'm sort of like, take my cue from the public if I can. So my son, who was 12 at the time, liked the World Wrestling Federation. Yeah. It's kind of one of those projects that would be beneath the dignity of a lot of writers and bands and artists. But I thought, no, my young son loves this. And then a few years later, when we did the Power Rangers, it's because my second son liked the Power Rangers. Well, that's what kids were liking at the time. And what's it got to do with me? Someone says make a record of something that these younger people are loving, then that's my cue to do it. It's not my cue to avoid it. Yeah. So yeah, I did them. Of course, the World Wrestling Federation had to change its name because they got it confused with the World Wildlife Fund.
Yes, of course, yes, it is. So it's WWE now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But that formula seems to be missing from. I know we said the charts are different, but there's not many novelty type songs anymore for kids, I don't think.
Well, of course, if you're a kid, it's not a novelty. It's a vindication of what you love and what you believe.
Of course, yeah. But I'm on about when you look back at it, I'm thinking.
Yeah, no. I do take your point, but yes, I think everyone takes it all a bit too seriously. Yeah. And some of the areas that have gone into in the pop world are not great. I've spoken up about it. So there's a whole range of. I think it's slightly changing now. Going back to slightly looking more at artists and repertoire, looking to see if they can find proper songs to suit proper artists instead of just chucking anything out. Yeah. I played Roadblock, which was, of course, you, Mike and Pete, and I can remember that being a song in I think it was '87. But most of the time you were behind the scenes. Being a musician, a very talented musician who could play quite a lot of instruments, and then going behind the scenes, was that a difficult step? Did you want to be in the limelight, or didn't that bother you? Well, no, like you've already mentioned, I started years ago gigging. I played all the hotels and stuff, so I played in my various bands. I played keyboards and bass and sang, so that wasn't something I was totally averse to doing. Although once we'd got in the studio and started producing, the idea of Roadblock came about because we were getting so much stick from sort of more trendy areas in the music industry, not from the public who just loved what we did, but from the industry itself. We were just three guys in a studio in South London, and we were actually doing better than them, the big boys. so it became a little bit spiteful.
Yeah.
So they thought all we could do was Candy Floss Pop. So I said, I'll show you, mate. And I got in the studio on Friday and I put Roadblock down, which is more like a 70s rare groove record. And we released it without putting our names to it. We got the white labels done and sent it out to the clubs and the DJs, and they all loved it.
Yeah.
People that were critical of us were picking up this record and saying how much they liked it. You know, we weren't trying to fool the public, we were trying to just fool the critics. And at that point, we revealed that it was us. So I think it made the point, and it did the trick.
Yeah.
I think, because, you know, I am a musician, I am a writer, I've been doing it a lot of years. I cut my teeth on the Beatles, the Stones, and everything that came out of the 60s, play guitar, I cut my fingers and my teeth playing guitar.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I find it's very slightly insulting when people think that all you can do is the Power Rangers or whatever you mentioned.
I'm struggling to think what it is with the British press. Is if something's really successful, they don't like to support it once it gets that degree of success. It's the same with the England football team or whatever. They just seem to want to shoot it down, or Simon Cowell yourselves. But you've said it stands up for itself. It's continued to be successful. You've had many incarnations with it.
Yeah.
So it's a pedigree in itself, and you've got a studio now which is covered and adorned in gold and platinum discs. Probably too many to actually put on display.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't get them all on the wall. And I'm not saying that in a boastful way. I just mean that of all the hits we had, if you imagine we had them around the world. I Should Be So Lucky was number one in 25 different countries.
Yeah.
So effectively there's 25 discs out there for I Should Be So Lucky. So if you magnify that up for all the the hits we've had, it's thousands of discs. So I've got up on the wall the ones that I like and particularly like.
Well, if you want to send one to our studio, put on our walls, feel free if you've got that many.
Okay. Yeah, they're not really gold, you know that, don't you?
Yeah. It's not.
Sprayed.
I wouldn't be put it on cash for gold or anything like that. Don't worry. Well, Mike, it's been amazing talking to you. Like I say, it's a conversation that could have gone on for the rest of the show, but I know you're very busy, and we want to promote this song. I know Chloe's just followed it on Twitter, so we will promote it as much as we can. It's called For Me. When is it actually out? When is it?
You can order it from Wednesday on iTunes and all the normal places. It's physically released on the 9th of September, so we're promoting it all the way through August, and of course the money's going to the Wayne Rooney Foundation and Childline and NSPCC. So your support will be gratefully received.
Well, it's playlisted as of today. We're making this the first play on this show of it for us. And like I say, it'll be played throughout until, we can't play it no more, which I don't know when that'll be. But Mike,
thank you very much.
Again, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
And here we go with Chloe Rose, and this is called For Me.